So the past couple of days haven't really been the best time for the Walt Disney Company and for Lucasfilm after they were put in a corner, thanks, by the way, to the Nielsen ratings report. We know that once those ratings came out for The Acolyte, especially for the finale, and it really set the record straight, we knew at the very time, right then and there, that there was nothing that Bob Iger and the rest of the Disney board of directors could really do or really kind of double down on when it comes to The Acolyte. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you also very much for the great and kind support. So there's been a lot of issues going on, not just limited to Lucasfilm, but multiple divisions over at the Walt Disney Company, but focusing on The Acolyte here because there's a lot of things going on right now between Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, Lucasfilm headquarters, and just the entirety of the Walt Disney Company. Now, focusing on everything, of course, related to the Acolyte situation, things got even worse when it comes to the quote-unquote financial collapse for Lucasfilm, a major division, by the way, for the Disney Company. Let's get into all of this, shall we? Now, specifically, of course, we already know that Bob Iger, Kathleen Kennedy, and the rest, of course, that were involved in The Acolyte Season 1 are all to blame. This is all because of their ongoing deliberate agenda, everything related to diversity, equity, and inclusion, DEI, over proper storytelling, over proper character development, and proper execution of a project. And that's when you get results like this, when it comes down to the Acolyte ratings disaster and the terrible reviews that we saw across all forms of social media. However, with both Bob Iger and Kathleen Kennedy already in an endless grudge against each other right now, since The Acolyte was cancelled officially and Leslie Headland was fired behind the scenes, from everything Star Wars related, mind you, one major development now has more to do with the financial collapse for the Walt Disney Company with its division known simply as Lucasfilm, in the wake of the Acolyte ratings disaster and its official cancellation for Season 2. Now, a crucial update to the entire scenario now involves how, since Bob Iger made that final call to cancel the Acolyte, roughly $10 to $15 million, get this, worth of merchandise is now going to a complete waste for all merchandise that was planned to be sold both online and in their Galaxy's Edge theme park at Disney. Now, the canceled merchandise ranged from clothing to lightsaber hilt replicas, all the way to figurines and even expensive statues for some of the main characters for the Acolyte that were created. And that's just scratching the surface, by the way, of the merchandise that was officially canceled by Disney that essentially threw away $10 to $15 million, and that's just for starters. In addition to this, sets were in fact built already for the Acolyte Season 2. 5 major set builds were created for the continuation of the Acolyte that was going to explore characters like Yoda, Darth Plagueis, Osha, May, and the Stranger, also known as Chimere. All 5 of these characters, of course, for those very expensive set builds, for those, of course, characters, are now being torn down and essentially deconstructed by the set designers. Each set built, of course, cost the overall Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm roughly $5 million each to build and are now being torn down quickly. Some parts of the set are said to be salvaged for future productions at Lucasfilm catered to Star Wars. However, the majority of them, of course, are not going to be used for future films and or projects and are unable to be salvaged. In addition to all of this, Lucasfilm had already shot and filmed multiple scenes for the Acolyte Season 2, one of which, it turns out, was going to be a special presentation in the D23 event, teasing the release of the Acolyte Season 2 for the fall of 2026. Now, an entire scene was filmed exclusively for the D23 event and was created by Kathleen Kennedy and Leslie Headland that cost them roughly $2 million to film, that was going to explore scenes focusing on Yoda and Osha. The scene was filmed specifically, of course, that took place in the Jedi Temple, and also one of which was based in a large cave set piece that was very pricey for the Walt Disney Company that was going to explore a special look at the Darth Plagueis character. Now guys, let me stop here quick. Now, what an awful way to introduce Darth Plagueis for starters in the Acolyte Season 1. You have Darth Plagueis, for the very first time in decades, got his actual time in live action form in a project that was not only awful, but a project that was cancelled. And that just really is, you know, a terrible mistake upon Lucasfilm. If they want to make things right, they could very well make it, you know, to the point where the Acolyte is either not canon, or if they can't go that route, they might as well just say that that character that you saw in the Acolyte was not Darth Plagueis, but just a regular Mun, you know, looking upon Osha and Chimere. But what's interesting about this is the fact that they went through various set builds that cost them millions upon millions of dollars, and that was just the beginning, the merchandise. And we talked about this weeks and weeks ago. This was a thing in the making that we talked about, that Lucasfilm and Disney were getting ready to cancel tons and tons of merchandise, not just limited to clothing and miscellaneous merchandise, but also lightsaber hilts for Galaxy's Edge, statues, most likely statues that were going to be exact replicas of Darth Plagueis, Yoda, Osha, May, Chimere, you name it. Various things that were going to be mass-produced that are now no longer moving forward and are being thrown into the trash, not to be sold. That is a major hit to Lucasfilm, and not in a good way. And it really goes to show you how incompetent Kathleen Kennedy really is, how incompetent Bob Iger truly is, by the way. I mean, this is the man that gave the green light for the Acolyte to begin with, allowed Kathleen Kennedy to hire Leslie Headland, Harvey Weinstein's former personal assistant, by the way. They damn well knew who they were hiring at the time. So, on top of this, the entire D23 Acolyte Season 2 exclusive scene was immediately cancelled beforehand, after Disney quickly learned about the downward spiral of the ratings disaster of the Acolyte, as they desperately tried to lie to their audience at the time about the ratings for the series. As of now, Lucasfilm and Disney lost tens of millions of dollars over not just Season 1, but how it also spilled into funds that were spent on the Acolyte Season 2. This was another factor into why Bob Iger fired Leslie Headland behind closed doors. So again, I mean, another disaster, if not the biggest disaster, for Lucasfilm since, of course, I would say The Last Jedi. Now, yes, with The Last Jedi, you didn't lose money, but you lost fans, alright? That was just the beginning of the end at the time, and I think right now you're really at an end point. Nothing, at least for me, is really kind of hyping me up at all. The Mandalorian and Grogu trailer, I could care less. I'll be very honest with you guys. I'm not going to sugarcoat anything. I thought it was very much bland, very much, you know, boring to say the least, through the leaked footage that you guys may or may not have seen from D23. I think that they really need to take a 5 to 10 year break, if anything, and either come back or sell it off to somebody else and have somebody else take a shot at Star Wars. But overall, I would like to hear what everyone has to say about all this below in the comments, everything ranging from the Acolyte financial situation and status, and the Leslie Headland situation, and just the Acolyte cancellation. And if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.